Years ago, Terry Lassane wrote a book called Reading Ladders about meeting readers where they are and then guiding them to new heights. It's a lovely image. I've got my own twist on it. I like to think of helping kids get onto the reading escalator. They read the first book I hand them, or their best friend forks over after staying up till midnight to finish it, and then boom, they're on that escalator cruising toward the next book without even realizing it. Sometimes it's a series that helps them on, or realizing that audiobooks count, or discovering Jason Reynolds for the first time. Sometimes it's a genre. They grab a Rick Riordan, then the next 12, then realize that fantasy is a thing, and then cruise straight into Fablehaven, Skandar and the Unicorn Thief, and Harry Potter. It's a genre I want to talk about today on the podcast, one that has exploded in popularity over the last 20 years and just keeps on going. Sometimes I think Neil Shusterman is keeping it alive single-handedly, but then I remember that Margaret Atwood, Adam Silvera, Megan Freeman, and Darcy Little-Badger are part of the movement, along with so many others. Have you guessed my genre? Yep, it's dystopia. Dystopia provides a fast-paced reading escalator with many series books integrated inside. Students might pick up The Hunger Games, move through the whole series, snag The Maze Runner, move through the whole series, snag The Uglies, move through the whole series, pick up Scythe, move through the whole series, pick up Divergent, move through the whole series. You get the idea. There are so many series-based, fast-paced starting points where students can step onto this reading path and find themselves carried upwards with a whoosh. Then, as they start to understand the genre more and more and become intrigued with it, there are new angles to explore. Maybe they try Megan Freeman's novel in verse Alone and its new companion Away. Maybe they pick up the graphic novel version of The Giver or the text version. They might imagine their lives with their internet feed planted inside their head by reading Feed. Eventually, deep in the genre, they just might be ready for Animal Farm, Fahrenheit 451, or another book that will stretch them further. Or they might be much better positioned to engage those books in your whole class curriculum. So today, let's talk about 5 different options to help students onto the reading escalator when it comes to dystopia. Welcome to the Spark Creativity Teacher Podcast, a podcast for English teachers looking for more creativity, more engagement, more joy, and no more scripted curriculum, lesson planning ruts, or boring book lists. I'm Betsy Potash, and I'm honored you're trusting me to help. You're not alone on this creative journey anymore. So a foundational strategy here is going to be to feature dystopia in your choice reading library. This one is a light lift. If you'd like to get started bringing more dystopia into your classroom, maybe adding it to your curriculum, then creating a display in your choice reading zone or along your whiteboard tray or in one of your windowsills is a great way to get started. Snag some favorites and go as simple or as complex as you want. You can add little blurbs, you can add little bookmarks peeking out that say, like, I recommend this book because, or give a little teaser. But you don't have to. You can also just stand them all up, maybe put up a sign that says Explore Dystopia, and you've created a little bit of interest around the genre already. All right. Second option here is going to build up a little more energy. Feature dystopia through a book tasting. Now, if you're rolling out dystopia in your display, in your choice reading program for the first time, or trying to build up energy around the genre leading up to a whole class read, a dystopia-themed book tasting is a great way to generate interest and energy. If you've been here for a while, then you know the drill when it comes to a book tasting. There are all different little details you can add, and again, you can go as complicated as you wish, or you can keep it simple. The basics are kind of put up a fun sign, welcome to our dystopian book tasting, maybe play some themed music, scatter the book options onto tables around the room, and invite your students to explore and jot down ratings and details about the books they find, right? You want them to have some kind of takeaway at the end, maybe the number one dystopia they'd be interested in reading and why. Now, you can also add in some food, some cocoa, silly napkins. Anything you want to add to make it more fun will only make it more memorable and more enjoyable, but you don't have to do these things. The nice thing about a dystopian book tasting is that it gives all of your students a broader awareness of the options available in your library, as well as the whole overall genre itself, right? At the end of tasting 12 different dystopian books, they're going to have a much better sense of what dystopia even is. Okay, next, feature dystopia in your First Chapter Friday program. Another easy way to help students get a broader idea of the genre and potentially guide readers onto your escalator is to showcase dystopia that you think kids will love for First Chapter Friday. I have recently been working on several First Chapter Friday choice boards so that students could vote on which dystopia they wanted to hear. So I took a big slide and I separated it into 4, and I made little visual teasers for books like Scythe, Divergent, Uglies, and Hunger Games. And I just put in a 1-sentence blurb, and I'm thinking, project this slide, let students choose. Now, you need to either have links to the first few minutes of the audiobook, and if you want a super short teaser, most audiobooks have the first few minutes available as a free sample wherever you can find audiobooks, or you can often find the first few minutes on a free app like Overdrive, or you can just make sure you have those paper books handy, whatever you're going to feature on your choice board, and read aloud. Or you don't have to do a choice board at all. You can just pick up a book you think they're going to love, like Scythe or Unwind or whatever, and read the first chapter or read the first 3 pages, any kind of little teaser or hook. If you do this, if you make all of a single month Dystopia month for First Chapter Friday, you're going to have given them a much deeper sense of 4 different dystopia books, and they're going to build their background knowledge of the genre and hopefully their interest in it. Okay, next option, feature dystopia through book clubs. This is something I'm planning to do next year with my 9th graders. It's something that I think is just a really great option. There's such a wide variety of dystopia. There's so many different types of dystopian books that students might be interested in, and I think the idea of letting them choose can be really powerful. It can also allow students who want to gravitate toward the more difficult dystopia to do that, and students who are maybe haven't read a book in a while and really need something catchy that they can pick up and get into and develop their interest in and sort of hit the escalator on the first stair. That option is available too when it comes to a book club. So I love book clubs because it gives students agency, but it still allows you to curate a collection that you feel comfortable with for them to read. And so we have already done an entire episode on dystopian book clubs. I'm just going to point you back to episode 327, all about how to run dystopian book clubs, if this is an option you're excited about. Okay, and then last but not least, when you've got students riding your escalator, they have seen your displays, they have tasted your books, they have heard your First Chapter Friday reads, maybe they have even done dystopian book clubs. Maybe you're ready for a whole class read. There are a lot of great dystopian novels that could make a worthy whole class choice, and that could be a great way to engage your students. I placed this last because I love the idea that by the time you get to a whole class read of, say, 1984, Lord of the Flies, or Fahrenheit 451, a lot of your students might already have been on your dystopian reading escalator for a while. Not that it's a dystopian reading escalator, but that it's a reading escalator within the dystopian genre. So I've got to think that for many students, Fahrenheit 451 or The Giver are going to feel even more accessible after reading Scythe and Unwind and The Uglies and The Maze Runner, because they are just going to have that general knowledge of how dystopia works. What's the purpose of dystopia? What makes dystopia exciting? What is maybe a characteristic or two of the genre? And so I just think that's going to make it easier to unpack the more in-depth text, and it's going to make it feel more worthwhile because they're already engaged and invested in the genre. Depending on your students' level and engagement, you can choose the text that feels right. There are so many options. If you have younger students or students that really need help getting hooked on reading, they're struggling to read outside of class, you can pick something ultra engaging like Schusterman titles, Scythe, Unwind. Or if you have students who are older and ready for the challenge, you can go with the political critique of Orwell's Animal Farm in 1984. Or if you feel like you really want to do some connecting to what's happening in the world and your students are eager to sort of discuss things happening around them and how they feel about that and what they want to do about that, you might pick up something like Fahrenheit 451 or Feed. Okay, my friends, so we have talked about 5 strategies for helping your students to enjoy the reading escalator and go more in depth with dystopia. Number 1, feature dystopia in your choice reading library. Number 2, feature dystopia through a book tasting. Number 3, feature dystopia in your First Chapter Friday program. Number 4, feature dystopia through awesome book clubs. And number 5, feature dystopia as a whole class read. Next week on the pod, we will be diving into one dystopia in particular, which, although very depressing, has always been very near and dear to my literary heart since I taught it many years ago. Until that time, take care of yourself and stay creative.